Please join us in welcoming our panelists for this session, GenAI in the driver's seat, Innovation or Expensive Gimmick, presented by BCG.
Hello, everyone. I think it's still time to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and I hope you're all energized and in great shape to enjoy everything that will be showcased in the coming days. So I'm Vanessa Lyon. I'm a managing director and senior partner at Boston Consulting Group, and I've been working at the crossroads of technology and automotive and mobility over the past 15 to 20 years. And I'm happy to be with you today to discuss this pressing topic. The story behind this panel is that we had several heated conversations about the value that's coming from GenAI, with a debate for those who would, on the one hand, see that there is value and it's like so obvious, and others that would just see the cost. And so we figured, why don't we have this debate all together with this distinguished panel, maybe with the room, maybe later on, to try to crack this question. So, of course, you know, as a GenAI practitioner myself, I know that the deployment of GenAI is not going to be an easy ride. However, auto and mobility sector, with its pioneering spirit that we've been experiencing over centuries now, has everything it takes to embrace the power of GenAI. So I don't know if anyone has noticed that artificial intelligence and internal combustion engine have actually much more in common than just the I in the acronym. ICE and AI are both technologies that have been following common patterns. They all come from technological breakthroughs that have been creeping through our lives. ICE is actually a very refined technology that allows to safely leverage the energy that's generated from an explosion, which, you know, when you think about it, is not so obvious. Both AI and ICE technologies took time to establish themselves at a level of maturity that's consumable. If we think about automotive, it's Mr. Benz who actually created the first modern automobile, baking in decades of engineering foundations into a practical, consumable, usable object, with the support of his wife, who was showing how it should be consumed and used. There are famous anecdotes around that. And in AI, it's Benjo, Hinton, and Lequin who've built upon theoretical foundations to demonstrate the practical viability of deep learning into something that was scalable and efficient. So the development of those technology, you know, it's all about scale up. It's all about how does it build up in our lives. And it's also triggered some fears and resistance, or, you know, interesting kind of behaviors. I'm not sure everyone remembers that in 1865 in the UK, there was the Red Flag Act that required vehicles on the public road to be preceded by a person on foot, warning with a red flag and blowing a horn to warn pedestrian and horse-drawn carriage that there was a car coming. And I think that may be the early version of the human in the loop, when you think about it. So the same way ICE has been, you know, catalyzed by triggering events such as, you know, the 2 world wars. AI has also been thriving on the development of connectivity, compute, the pandemic. And so there are parallels in the way they've been establishing. So of course, you know, AI, one could say, you know, there is nothing new there. It's just a continuation of the rule-based system. But actually, the moment we went from deterministic to probabilistic, we've been able to achieve a breakthrough at the back of compute. So that today, generative AI is well established as a technology and is opening the door to AI-enabled agents. So agents is going to be a fashionable topic at the show today. I know there were already discussions and presentations yesterday. An AI agent is a computational entity that perceives its environment through sensors, processes information, and takes action to make specific decisions. It is able to plan actions leveraging AI, leveraging LLMs, and act autonomously by operating the systems and tools it's connected to. Now people also think about networks of agents and teams of agents, but that's probably for the next month. We see that the market is expected to pick up. There is a huge consensus there and a big push. We are expecting the market to be multiplied by 10 by 2030. And early adopters have been able to unlock value out of GenAI and GenAI-enabled agents. We see across the value chain lots of value being delivered by agent-based workflow. One can speak about productivity, and in many cases, we see north of 50% productivity or reduction in terms of cycle time, which in any case, forces us to rethink the processes and the operating model. If we take an example, just to bring it to life and how this works, in the space of media management, we've observed in real-life case studies that while it would take a team of 6 people per market and per brand to be able to deliver a series of tasks in a week or so, the same amount of work can now be delivered by one person with the support of an AI agent in less than an hour. And how does it work? The agent is actually doing all the basic tasks: data collection, analysis, basic scenario generation, and all of that, so that the human can focus on high-value tasks. There is less time wasted, and it allows to take a step back. So that's the way it works. That's the way we see pick up across industries, be it in operations, decision-making, complex tasks, and so on. And we see that in the C-suite, there are questions about how do we change our operating model, how do we rethink our customer experience, and what's the role of the human, what's the skills that are required, and so potentially a massive change ahead. Where do we stand in automotive? So of course, automotive and mobility have been pioneers or precursors in this space. Generative design is one obvious one, autonomous driving as well. I think it's an industry where the technology has been thriving. We see also the emergence of in-person vehicle assistance, customer service assistance, all GenAI enabled, which is pretty exciting, and also support in other processes around marketing, commercial, or software development. But the study that we published in the fall shows that only 18% of companies in the auto and mobility space claim they've been able to extract value out of AI and GenAI, mainly on cost and productivity, a little bit on top line. And 69% of companies have seen no value, neither on the bottom line or on the top line. So to be able to discuss it and what's going on, I'm very happy to welcome our distinguished panelists. So I have with me today Harry Husted, who is the Chief Technology Officer of BorgWarner. He will share with us the changes he sees in the space of large system development. Marianne Johnson is the EVP and Chief Product Officer of Cox Automotive. She's a passionate advocate of data strategy. Jayesh Patel is the EVP and Chief Marketing Officer at Hertz, and he will share his views on the potential of AI in the space of marketing and customer service. Carrie Tharp, VP Global Industries and Solutions at Google LLC, will share her views on the promises she sees from advanced AI. and Scott Wine, former CEO of CNHI, NV, and Polaris, how he sees success materialize and what it takes to be successful. So please join me in welcoming this panel, and I'll turn to them for questions. So let's start with where the value is, because it seems it's a pressing question. Carrie, I will start with you. What do you see in automotive? Where is the value, and in what time frame?
Yeah, I think it's important to think about what are the time frames, because you kind of called out there's value across the entire automotive value chain, but where do you start? And so I look at it as a think big but start small type of approach, where you refer to that stat of very few folks actually seeing the value. You have to start very focused in parts of your value chain that are known and measurable that you can get your arms around. So what's really moving over the next year or two is things like marketing, so content generation, being able to drive better marketing ROI, everything customer service, so being able to unlock insights from that unstructured data, drive better experience for drivers and consumers at large. It's things like code assistance, so being able to maintain or migrate code bases to the cloud and then drive faster innovation cycles, and what I would call low-hanging fruit in the vehicle. So there are now things we can do in real time that you can start to improve those in that experience. Midterm, I call it those bigger rocks, so things where people and process are harder to move, so that's inside the manufacturing process, design, changing those cycles. That's where you have people that are very used to working in a certain way, and the time to capture the value may take longer. So how to get to low-hanging fruit midterm. And then long-term is the promise that every industry sees. So the full end future of autonomous driving, what in-car assistance looks like that is fully predictive, not just kind of, hey, where's there a restaurant that I want to go to while I'm driving through this city? And really, what does that experience definition look like in the future? I think that's the space where new value pools will emerge. So that creates a new surface of interaction for consumers. And how does that interlock with all the other kind of agent experiences that will be kind of coming up and around from retail, from media, from other industries that are changing the way they think about where consumer interacts? The vehicle may not be the primary initial interaction point, but how does that vehicle experience become a part of those broader agent experiences and new interaction points of the future?
So Scott, I know you've been implementing those technologies successfully. What have you seen as the greatest potential? Why have you been pushing for those technologies as an executive, and what have been the challenges?
Well, I think you push because there is such revolutionary opportunity here. But, you know, Carrie said small and focused. And I think that is really in industry what we've seen, because it can get very expensive quite quickly. Good for you all, not necessarily good for us. But at the end of the day, when we've had success, whether it's with GitHub and software development, or really taking tools. And one of the best examples we had was we took an LLM model and created a platform where all of the images for the parts that went into our equipment, and somebody could search with that image and get a YouTube video or directions on exactly how to fix something instead of going and looking online. Things like that that add real value. Over time, I think those are going to become, those focused efforts can become much larger, and that's when you start to get the real productivity. But it is a little elusive at this early stage on how you really get that big payback from the investments you have to make.
Awesome. Harry, do you want to tell us about what you see as emerging winners in terms of use cases and what you've been implementing?
Yeah. And we started a process about 15 months ago to try and identify the winners. You know, the job is generative AI is here, it's exciting, it offers a lot of potential, but how can you make it impactful for the company? And so we had a series of meetings with experts in the area, including BCG. And from that, we identified some low-hanging fruit, some winners that seemed like sure things. And at that time, you know, think back 15 months ago, the clear winners weren't necessarily all well known. But we identified a software coding assistant as a great application for us. The reason is we have quite a few software engineers in the company. We wanted to be impactful, and this looked like what we were seeing in the industry was a very sure thing to get a productivity boost and get job satisfaction, and it also had a lot of leverage within the company. We knew that if we implemented it, it would affect a lot of people and bring about a lot of benefits. So that's one thing that we've done.
Marianne, I know you've been also trying it for productivity purposes and in your products. Do you want to share any insights?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been on a data and AI journey for a long time at Cox Automotive. So most of our products today have AI built into them. And so taking the leap to generative AI was exciting. At the same time, to think about what the art of the possible was. Because we were so intentional about our data curation on how we serve our customers, we were able to really do some interesting things pretty fast. One of the things, actually Carrie just kind of laid out our roadmap of what we did. We looked at content generation. We manage websites, AutoTrader, KBB, you think about some of the consumer sites that you come to. So there's a lot of content creation. So how could we be more productive, more efficient with that, with the unique data assets that we had? So it was our own content creation. We then turned around and said, we're helping our customers be more efficient. How can we take that unique data asset and let generative AI be available to our customers? So we did some pilots and we've now rolled out, really I think it just got announced this week that it's generally available to all of our dealers, where all of our unique insights that you have across all of our properties, that we have now made it super easy with a click for our dealer to be able to create messaging to a consumer, either through email or through text or chat, that is specific, relevant, and timely to the unique needs and interests of that consumer. So now at a dealership, the individual doesn't have to figure out what I need to write. I need to go research what is this person looking at. Are they in market? That is all done for them. So the uptick we've seen from consumer engagement on behalf of the dealers has been significant there. We're also, if you think about writing descriptions, if you're going to list a vehicle on our private seller exchange, as an example, we give you a generative AI button to write the description of your vehicle. Taps back to our data, the build data. So Marianne's Camaro, 2011 convertible Camaro, which we may need to go list, take it, and I now know the build data. We have that data. I hit the click as the consumer. It now writes the description for that for me. And we're finding the consumer just accepts what the generative AI is writing for them for the description to list their vehicle to sell. They may tweak it, but they tend to accept it. And then the consumers on the other side, we're seeing an uptick for the consumers who are seeing the generative AI descriptions versus someone who is not using that. And then we are doing code assist across. We've rolled out across a large engineering population. It is a job satisfaction. It is a productivity gain on that. And we'll get to talk about agents. We're diving into agents now too. We're learning a lot. It goes back to being focused and finding use cases that you can actually see results and then iterate from there.
Jayesh, what are the ones that you are most excited about on your side?
Yeah, so at Hertz, we rent cars, and we really see a lot of promise for GenAI in delivering great personalized customer experiences. If you think about our business, we have over 500,000 cars. We have a network that's global, thousands of locations. So in any given year, we have billions of kind of micro engagements with our customers and how we deliver really personalized, relevant experiences, and then also manage trade-offs because we have a system and a network, and there are trade-offs that we need to manage. So kind of to what Carrie's point, we are thinking big, but starting small. And we're focused in really three major areas: how we manage our fleet, how we generate marketing content and generations of content or versions of content and how we target those, and then the call center and customer experience. And we've actually seen the most benefit in the call center and customer experience to date.
Yeah, and I guess that this is a significant transformation impact that you have to deal with. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you've been dealing with this transformation, or what's the approach?
Yeah,
to drive the transformation?
So the call center is a really good example. So we have a product team, some of them are here today, that are really focused on better digital customer experiences for our customers. And so what they did was they used these new tools to go in and analyze customer calls. And I used to run a business at Hertz. I would go and listen to those calls. I remember getting the files in my email box. There'd be 100 megabytes, figure out how to get it, and listen all day long. They're able to analyze these calls at scale and immediately get really, really good insights It's what are people calling about, but it's also things like what's the disposition on the call. So are people getting frustrated, less frustrated as topics are being spoken and getting resolved, and then what topics bring a lot of anxiety into customers. And it's really interesting. So we use this information in two ways. So one, we use it to coach our agents. To Marianne's point, it's very timely, it's very relevant, and so that drives a ton of impact because it's such in-the-moment feedback. Yep. And we can also generate prompts and scripts in an automated manner for agents to respond to questions. And then we also use it to inform our digital roadmap. And so this is where it's been really valuable to prioritize what are the most customer irritants. So, I'll give an example. When a customer has a flight delay, they'll often call us, and they'll call us with a lot of tension. Hey, I'm coming, make sure you have the car, et cetera. They'll call locations, they'll call our call center. So we use that information to develop a whole new digital experience where we're proactive in reaching out to the customer. This is better for them. It's a time of anxiety, and so we're able to relieve that anxiety, and then it's obviously better for us as well. Frees our time up.
Oh, that's great. Harry, I know that when we discuss transformation and challenges, we were discussing how do we mobilize leaders, and I know you wanted to share some real-life experiences about that.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important topic, and it really partially depends on how your company's led, whether your company's a very centrally led and directed company. The company I'm in tends to be more decentralized with independent business units, and so accomplishing a cross-company scaling of a new technology becomes more challenging in that kind of an environment. And so what we did is we went through a process of communicating well. We started with a solid baseline of the senior leadership realizing GenAI is here, there are a lot of opportunities, so there was a collective will to go find the benefit, but yet then identifying beneficial technology, communicating. We ran an internal pilot where we took the technology that we were pretty sure is a winner, and yet we piloted it with each business unit, with their people, documented the results, and that helped build consensus around let's go now and implement this at scale. And so that was a really helpful process and has got us to the point where we're able to roll out Software Assistant at scale now.
Marianne, if we discuss key success factors and the central role of data, I know you are adamant that data is at the center. I'm in that camp too.
Yep.
But I'd love to understand how you think about your data strategy and how much it helped you be successful.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's one part I think that we've done really well, and you're never done on data. And there's another part I think we're just going to tap into. So everybody has structured data. Hopefully you have structured data. Most of us have a tremendous amount of unstructured data. A lot of what we got started with was the structured data that we were doing AI already on top of. So that was an easy path to go, start small, iterate, see some value, see some measure, get client feedback, internal customer and external customer feedback. What I'm super excited, and we'll continue on that journey, that's happening. There's no putting GenAI back in the box. It's going forward. So that will deliver value. We will find productivity for our customers and for ourselves. I think what's really interesting now and what's happened over this past year, as we were talking about agentic AI, is the unstructured data. So how much unstructured data do you have? How many learning systems do you have? How much product content information do you have across your business? How much financial information do you have in different places over your business? All that unstructured data, what type of activities do you have people taking tasks and doing work every day that is work that can be handled by an agent? And we are actually taking an effort to spin up an accelerator. We're already doing our innovation acceleration that we're doing that I described some of the use cases on. But in two areas, we're partnering across the whole company to look at where are there opportunities to drive efficiency and put agents in place. That will free up expense and investment to go invest in other areas. And that's across whether it's call center, whether it's billing, whether it's operations, it could be marketing, it could be anywhere in the business. And then with my own organization, which is product, tech, data, IT, security, where's all the, what my team likes to call as muck, all the things that an engineer kind of has to do to keep the lights on, keep things running that they don't really want to spend the time doing. We should be able to take that activity and apply agents with agents learning on top of that and take that work and have that happen, just be handled so that those hours, whether it's 30%, 40% of engineering time, is now investing in other areas to bring value to the business and bring value to the market. I think we've hit a tipping point where we're going to see that happen in 2025, and we're going to do focused activity. We like to use the word pragmatically aggressive. So we are aggressive about it, but we're going to be pragmatic about how we go about it and learn and iterate and see value and show the leadership team and the company that we're delivering value. We also believe that's going to allow us to allow employees to focus on higher value activity. So data, you have to have your data house in order to really take advantage of the generative AI, and I think the unstructured data is just on the horizon right now of what the LLMs can do and bring value to unstructured data.
Yeah, I get it. Carrie, shifting gear, if we think about key success factor, I mean, I'm sure from your vantage point, you see different strategies in terms of make versus buy. Is this something that you see at the center of a successful strategy?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting time to be a leader in this space, whether you're on the technology side or on the business side, because if your job wasn't hard enough, I would say the boundary of build versus buy is changing. So conversations that we used to have about, I want to build something myself because this is proprietary and in-vehicle experience is proprietary, so I want to own that stack. The reality is the technology and the underlying capabilities to fuel those experiences of the future are changing so fast that no individual company could really keep pace with natural language understanding, with translations, all the different things that are going to have to feed into these experiences to make them really world-class. And so stepping back as a team and understanding where is the new threshold, what is really proprietary, it's actually your data and the experience that you end up designing that becomes what differentiates you. And there's these core, I call them Lego blocks, building blocks that you want to get from technology companies, that the weight of their R&D machine is pushing that forward at a pace that you just want to be able to be a taker on that. And so being really thoughtful about what that looks like, we're seeing it disrupt many industries right now. I use kind of the search example on websites. So all consumer companies, whether it was retail or kind of automotive site search, for decades have built their own search stacks based on Solar or Elastic. And that was the right decision for decades, and probably the right decision until about a year or two ago. And that's an example where we created search capability that's now accessible to everybody. And it's not that that search team lost their jobs. It's that, as you were referring to, the search team got to move on to higher function experience and left some of that search basic capability and leveraging the Google product knowledge graph to supercharge their experience and get into the next evolution of what conversational interaction will look like. And so it's just looking at every project, use case, programming that you're going to take on and say, if I have a clean sheet of paper, what does it look like? Not that you have to throw your legacy stacks out, but how do I just think about experience and friction in a new way and work through with your technology and business teams to say, what are we trying to achieve and what is the most efficient capital and expense approach to get there, and something that's going to grow with you. So your right decision today, if you're not kind of taking the right platform approach, you don't want something that's out of date 6 months, 1 year from now. And so how, again, are you working with the technology players to take a platform approach and be able to swap models in and out? The best model for marketing content generation may be different, this quarter to next. And thinking about it in that way of how are you setting up your organization to be the fastest mover to capture value sooner.
I guess it poses the question of the resources and the talents and how do you build or emulate that pool. Scott, I know that's something you've been confronted to and you're very passionate about. Do you want to share your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's actually exciting just to sit here and listen to all of the potential use cases and just how exciting it is to do that. And then you're brought back to the reality, it takes talent to take the tools that Google gives us to be able to bring this stuff to life. You've got to have somebody in your organization that has that. And I'm not sure as a society yet, the universities, the technical schools are yet building that. So a lot of times we have to build that capability ourselves in industry And it sounds like you've done a really good job at Cox of doing that, but you've got to have somebody to bring this stuff to life. And I do think that over the next couple of years, we're going to hit that inflection point where you finally have the technology hitting as more skilled workers are coming in to be able to use this stuff. You know, I own a small luxury outdoor furniture company, and one of the great opportunities we have is to use Sora or other imaging to create video content. And I'm like, who's going to do that for me? It's great technology, but I don't know where to find the person to go do that for me. So really, it's exciting, but also really challenging.
And I think, you know, it's sort of connected to the question of the scale up and, you know, how can we scale? Because it's good to start small, but at some point you need to be able to scale. And so I'd love to, you know, listen to the panelists around how do we unlock the scale up. Maybe we start with you, Harry. You briefly touched upon IT and other functions. How have you, you know, make sure they would not be blockers and they would be on board?
It's really about building that alignment, and it, you know, once again, started with that foundational desire at the company to take advantage of GenAI, and then it's building a team that involves, you know, the information technology organization. I have a development organization in parallel to that. We really wanted to bring in the legal team early on and make sure that what we were going to do would work at a enterprise level and would meet all the requirements it needed to meet. And so that teamwork has been really important, really with a common goal of let's be more efficient and let's take advantage and find the right tools. So a lot of communication there.
Maybe Jayesh, if I turn to you, at some point when we prepared that, you mentioned the risk of diminishing returns.
Yes.
Do you see that as a pressing question?
Yeah, I think it depends on the use case, right? So I mentioned the call center example previously. There's absolutely diminishing returns there. And so I think Elon's here, he's on our product team. He's constantly thinking about how much data to analyze and what's the trade-off of 10% more data, 10% less data, would we make different decisions? And I think as Scott mentioned, like this is a lot of money. And so he's constantly trying to balance that equation. I think on other use cases, particularly, for example, in the marketing area where I sit, we're just very immature, we're very early. And so the way we look at that is somewhat an investment case, right? A little bit of giving the teams latitude with obviously a thought for that there's value there, but to experiment and to go after the value. And then the last thing I would just say is, Carrie kind of mentioned previously, is the cost curves are coming tremendously down. And so what might not work today, I think, you know, quickly we are finding will work in the future. And so we also want to be mindful of that as we do expect some of these things to get more and more cost effective, which then just increases the ROI for us.
And just to build all the way back to Scott's comment, I think AI is not new, data is not new. Many of us have been working on it. The expansion of the toolkit with generative is exciting. Most industries were probably only in 25, 35, 40, the ones that feel advanced along that data and AI journey. And if you look back to AI infusion in industry, it often starts with partners. So on your marketing question, it may start with an agency that's all they do all day is use the image models and they can tune it to your brand, voice and imagery. In other cases, it'll be AI partners to help with various elements to say, you know, this is where the diminishing returns line is. And so thinking about that process to say it's not a go it alone type of effort and using kind of pockets of expertise where you have it, because I think the more you assume you have to go it alone and your teams are trying to learn their way through every model, every tool, every platform, the more likely you are to have churn and less of the ROI and less of the fast path to value. And so being really thoughtful, I think back to 15 years ago in retail, we started with SaaS players doing recommendations engines because they represented the best use of AI for predictive recommendations. We then learned alongside of them an in-house recommendation engines. Then the technology advanced and we went back to a partner. And so AI is not a static thing, and just thinking about what does that look like for your team, what does that use case warrant, that type of thing, what is the partner that's leading in the space? Because getting to some of these ROI factors that the board wants to look at or senior leadership, a lot of times BCG, I know, can do proofs of concept and things like that. There's SaaS players that they're going to do one use case and they're just going to do it. And they're going to know every little nuance and issue and stumbling block you're going to have, and how do you put that into your model as well. And then you may graduate over time out of maturity and be able to do those things yourself.
And I think, Marianne, you connected two adjectives in a very nice manner, which is pragmatic and aggressive. What's your, I mean, you're also talking about the rollout that you are doing of many use cases. What has been your approach to accelerate this scale up and make sure you still remain on track?
Yeah, I would say the past 12 to 18 months, you know, we partnered a lot. We have key partners that we partner with that have different access to LLMs. We've tested a lot of LLMs. We spun up a task force to make sure that, you know, we were leveraging the right tools, the right environments, had the right partner ecosystem for what fit for us. We did that across Cox, not just Cox Automotive, so a lot of partner knowledge sharing so that we were accelerating the learning across the whole company. We piloted all of our co-pilot type programs that we were looking at for Code Assist. And we have an engineering excellence team that is championing that across our, we have a pretty large, very blessed to have a large engineering and data science team. And so as they started getting value and they started learning, I really had developers that were just not sleeping, to be honest. They were just so excited about the possible of what they were seeing and what they were doing and producing. We had engineers create their own, what they call promptly, of course, their branding and marketing, manage their own tool to be able to, a prompt engine so that everybody can use the prompt engine to go faster. And they're sharing that across our engineering excellence channels that we share. So we also have strategic partners that engineer with us. And so we're following the same patterns of how we're rolling out the progress and the productivity around that. So that's been super exciting to see the scale. So in December, we rolled out our Code Assist program and parameters across our entire engineering ecosystem. So we'll be monitoring productivity and see what we're doing from that perspective. I think scale, it's really a partnership with our business partners. Now that we've seen some success, there's a pull. I had one business partner ask, I mean, the quote was, "Can you GenAI me?" you know, can you come, look at what I'm doing in my business and see if you can help bring these tools into that. So now there's a pull. And once you have that pull, then there's the mindset of what else can be possible. So I think 25 will be more than our iterative and what we've done to get these, maybe 15 to 20 generative AI products in use and in production to start scaling that. So it'll be exciting to see what happens this year. One comment I just wanted to make that when listening to Carrie is what differentiated you in the past is likely not going to be what differentiates you in the future. So data, I think, is always going to be a differentiator. But the barrier to entry now to create code, you can speak code, you can create websites, you can create content faster and more accurate than ever before. So whatever you were doing, you've got to reevaluate what your value prop is and what you were selling, and did the barrier to entry just change? So if you're a SaaS provider, I think that's an interesting conversation to be able to think about. So when you think about scale, I think 25, 26, we're going to see new business models emerge, and your differentiation is going to be different. So I would challenge us all to think about where is your value prop in the future.
I think in the transformation, we've discussed almost each layer from a management standpoint, like the leaders, the developers, people at call centers and all. Jayesh, do you have a perspective on how do we onboard middle managers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes to a lot what MJ said. We're seeing just a galvanizing force around the middle managers. They're just so excited by the technology. We have engineers staying up all night just by the possibility of what they can create. I think it's important to have the centralized governance and tools and make sure you're using the right processes and protecting the data. But honestly, giving the teams the latitude and the resources to apply it to their objectives and their missions, I think is important. And I just think we see a lot of energy and excitement across our workforce, and we've deployed it to all of our workforce. And I think that's important as well, to put it into the hands of the entire teams.
I do think we're going to see a challenge in certain roles that don't have that mindset. If it's a very repetitive role and an agent replaces that role.
Yep.
I think the adoption curve, change curve, we're going to have to be super intentional about how we manage that when we start taking that across the whole organization, and who hopefully have the opportunity to upskill resources as well.
Maybe to close this panel, as we have 30 seconds left, I'd love to hear Scott and Carrie, what do you see as the most exciting use cases? The one that you really like, or the one that you really like to knock out in 2025? Scott, you want to start?
I don't know if it's going to be 2025, but I think they're getting really close with humanoids being able to tackle really complex tasks with finger dexterity and whatnot, and that's going to be a game changer for quality, productivity, so many things. And I think it's probably going to be late 25, 26, so we can start taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think if we look across the industry, it's kind of AI, whether it's computer vision or language models, things that we're talking about as assistive. So creative assistant, we're already using it in fast food restaurants to help them with standardized process, to get your burger to you better the way it's supposed to be. And really just kind of the quality across a lot of industries increasing. Inside automotive, I would say definitely not probably this year, but the future of kind of in-vehicle assistance and what that is defined to be. I think we have a very pedestrian type of experience today that each of you probably uses your vehicles to some degree in a novelty-based use case kind of way, that it's not core to the way you operate your vehicle or kind of live your life. And I think that boundary is going to fundamentally change over the next couple of years. I think back to that value prop statement, I think every automotive company has to rethink what is my value prop, and therefore what experiences am I embedding into my app, into my vehicle, et cetera. So that's one of those undefined, but very excited about what we'll all be experiencing in the next couple of years.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for their insights. It seems that 2025 is a turning point. So let's regroup early 26 to see if we've moved the needle in terms of value creation. Thank you.
Thank you.